Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever stopped to think about the incredible paradox at the heart of our global food systems?
Do you mean how we've got so much hunger on one side?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Immense hunger, millions struggling. And then, strikingly on the other side, we're grappling with this global obesity crisis. Billions of people taking in way too many calories.
It's a profound disconnect, isn't it, in how we understand food, how we interact with it.
Yeah, and it casts this long shadow over our personal health, obviously, but also the future of the planet itself.
It truly is a complex web, and what's fascinating, maybe troubling even, is how these two extremes just exist side by side.
Right. It highlights this critical gap, I think, in our collective understanding of food, beyond just fuel.
Beyond basic sustenance, absolutely.
And that fundamental gap, that's precisely what we're exploring in this deep dive.
Okay.
Our focus today is a really fascinating new research study. It's just out, published in the International Journal of Modern Education Studies, December 2025 issue.
Okay.
Uh,
Recent then.
Very. It's by Mehmet Yildirim and Semra Demir Basharan. And they've been investigating something called a food literacy program, designed specifically to tackle these exact issues we're talking about.
Interesting. So our mission for this deep dive is what? To delve into how they built this program, how they ran it.
Exactly. Its development, its implementation, and crucially, was it effective? Does it actually work?
Right. And we'll be looking at how it tries to give primary school students, kids, the essential knowledge, the practical skills.
And a deeper awareness, yeah, for a more sustainable future.
Ultimately, it's about getting to the core of what it means to be, truly well-informed about something as basic as food.
Okay, let's start with the big picture, because the scale is, well, it's pretty stark.
It really is.
Globally, you've got 735 million people suffering from hunger.
Mm.
That number alone is just
It's
staggering.
hard to even comprehend.
But then, right alongside that, you have approximately 20% of the world's population, that's 1.8 billion people, who are overweight from taking in too many calories.
And this isn't just some abstract global issue, right? It hits home. Like in Turkey, where this study happened, 17% of the population is defined as obese.
17%. That's significant.
It is. And the health consequences are severe. We're talking direct links to things like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, various cancers.
And these conditions, they're often tied back to really common eating habits, aren't they?
Yeah, everyday things, irregular meals, maybe not eating enough vegetables, snacking too often, things many people do.
So it's clear our food habits are a huge piece of the personal health puzzle. But what about the wider implications? The planet.
That's the other side of the coin. Our entire food system from farm to fork basically is a major driver of climate change and these broader environmental problems.
It's all connected. Seems obvious when you say it, but maybe we don't always connect the dots.
I think that connection is often missed, actually. We talk a lot about eating healthy for our bodies, but maybe less about eating healthy for the planet.
That's a really good point. How often do you think the average person connects their dinner plate to, say, global warming or resource depletion?
That's a powerful question, my guess.
Yeah.
For many, that bridge isn't fully built yet.
And this brings us right to that concept of sustainable development.
Right, the Brundtland Report definition from '87.
Yeah, exactly. Meeting our present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs.
And food is right at the center of that. Its production, its consumption, they're directly tied into natural resource use, pollution, climate change, losing biodiversity.
It touches everything.
Precisely. And it's not just theory. You see organizations like the UN directly prioritizing sustainable food systems. Their goals like ending hunger and responsible consumption and production. They scream urgency on this.
Okay, here's where I think it gets really interesting. Paradigm shifting even.
How so?
It's not just about BMI or counting calories anymore. Our whole understanding of food seems to be evolving.
You mean beyond just nutrition?
Yeah. Food choices now, our preferences, they seem to integrate social factors, cultural ones,
Yeah.
environmental conditions. It's much richer.
That's a crucial shift.
Yeah.
And it leads us straight into this idea of food literacy.
Which was first really outlined by Vigen and Gallegos back in 2014, wasn't it?
That's right. They defined it as basically the whole set of knowledge, skills, and behaviors people need to navigate their food choices.
So it goes way beyond just knowing, like, is this apple healthy?
Oh, much further. It includes practical skills, too. Things like managing a food budget, shopping smart, preparing meals, even making ethical choices.
Ethical choices like supporting local farmers or understanding the carbon footprint of imported food.
Exactly. Or knowing about food waste, sustainable packaging. It makes you wonder how truly food literate are most of us, even as adults.
That's a fair question. I suspect many of us, myself included, have some blind spots there.
For sure. And you see groups like the WWF, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, with their Life Project in Europe. They offer really clear principles for
What
this.
sort of principles?
Things like consuming less meat, eating more vegetables and fruits, cutting down food waste, choosing certified foods where possible, and importantly, avoiding those ultra-processed foods packed with sugar, salt, and fat.
Makes sense. And this is why getting this food literacy early during childhood and adolescence seems so incredibly crucial.
It really is, because that's when you build the foundation for lifelong habits.
All right. And if you don't get that foundation, if you have inadequate food literacy,
Then it directly contributes to unhealthy eating, and sadly, it can even worsen health inequalities down the road.
it really highlights the preventative power of education, especially early on.
Huge potential. If we can embed these skills and understandings early, the ripple effect on health, both individual and public, could be enormous.
So given these huge challenges, the health crisis, the environmental impact, the need for literacy, the next question is obvious. How do we actually fix it? Or at least, how do we start?
And that's exactly what this study tried to do with its Food Literacy Program, or FLP.
Right. And its unique contribution seems to be this focus on primary school kids, where you said it's most effective, but also linking it directly to sustainable development goals and ethical consumption.
Exactly. They didn't just want kids to eat healthier, they wanted them to understand the bigger picture.
And how did they structure the teaching? What was the framework?
They used a specific instructional design model, the Morrison, Ross, and Kemp model.
Okay, what's special about that one?
Well, for anyone interested in educational design, it's known for being very student-centered. It's also flexible and cyclical.
Cyclical,
Yeah.
meaning it's not just step one, step two, done.
Precisely. It's not linear. It allows for feedback loops, adaptation, refinement, based on how the students are actually doing and what they need. Much more dynamic.
That flexibility sounds absolutely key for a topic like food, which is so personal and complex.
Definitely.
So diving into their design process, how did they figure out what needed to be in this program? What was the first step?
They started with a really thorough needs assessment. They looked at it in two ways: felt needs and projected or future needs.
Okay, explain those. What's a felt need?
Felt needs were basically the gaps they saw right now. In this case, primary students just weren't showing consistent healthy eating habits. That was the current problem.
Got it. And projected needs, looking ahead.
Exactly. That was about preventing future problems, aiming to minimize nutrition-related health issues later on, and maybe counteract some of the unhealthy influences kids pick up from, their environment or social media as they get older.
Makes sense. So what did this needs analysis actually find? Did they talk to the kids?
They did. They gave a questionnaire to 28 fourth graders, and the findings were quite telling.
Like what?
Well, the kids had very little information about some specific things, like the Safe Food Hotline in Turkey, ALO 174.
Okay, a practical thing.
Yeah, and also the importance of drinking enough fluids or understanding special diets for chronic diseases.
Yeah.
Basic stuff, but the knowledge wasn't there.
Wow. Anything else?
They also didn't do as well as expected on identifying food groups, reading nutrition labels, or even showing preferences for healthy foods. So, clear knowledge gaps.
That's quite revealing for fourth graders.
Wow.
But how did the kids feel about learning this stuff? Were they interested?
That was the crucial part. The motivation was incredibly high. Get this. 89.3% of the students felt that food literacy education was necessary.
Nearly 90%.
Yeah. And 82.1% said they'd be willing to participate even if it was outside of regular school hours.
That's fantastic. It shows a real hunger, pardon the pun, for this knowledge.
It really does. A huge plus for any program when the learners are already on board.
So who were these learners exactly?
The main group was 26 fourth grade students, aged about 9 to 10. A pretty even mix, 14 girls and 12 boys.
Any special considerations?
They noted that none had chronic illnesses or learning difficulties that required specific adaptations. But, and this is really thoughtful, they had 2 Syrian refugee students in the class.
Oh, interesting. How did they handle that?
They made sure they were fully included, they recognized the kids were fluent in Turkish, but they also deliberately incorporated examples from cuisines of neighboring countries, sort of celebrating the cultural differences within the food context.
That's brilliant. Really inclusive design.
It really is. Shows attention to the specific learners.
Okay, so they knew the needs, they knew the learners. What were the actual goals of the program? What did they want the kids to be able to do?
The goals were very specific, very behavioral. For example, under the healthy eating topic, one objective was for students to be able to list common non-communicable chronic diseases in Turkey and in the world.
Okay, so knowledge-based.
Yes, but also linking it, another objective was to establish the relationship between healthy nutrition and non-communicable chronic diseases. So connecting the dots.
Right, understanding the why. What about the sustainability side?
Good question. For sustainable and ethical food consumption, objectives included things like being able to select local and seasonal foods.
Practical skills.
Exactly. And also, prefer to use environmentally friendly and recyclable food packages, trying to influence those choices. These are tangible, measurable outcomes.
They really are. And how did they teach this? Just lectures?
No, definitely not. The strategy sounded really engaging, very hands-on.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so to motivate learning about chronic diseases, they didn't just talk about obesity. They showed a video depicting the daily difficulties an obese person might face climbing stairs, putting on clothes, making it real.
Ah, creating empathy and understanding. Powerful.
Yeah. And for understanding healthy eating, the teacher would actually demonstrate preparing a healthy dinner plate. Then the students had to prepare their own plates based on different hypothetical physical activity levels.
Oh, I love that. Active learning, not just passive listening.
Totally. It aligns perfectly with that Morrison, Ross, and Kemp model, student-centered, active, experiential, not just pouring information in.
Okay, so they designed this program, they had engaging activities. How did they actually measure if it worked? What was the research method?
They used what's called a single group pre-test, post-test, quasi-experimental design.
Okay, break that down. Single group.
Means they didn't have a separate control group that didn't get the program. They just tested the same group of students before the program and then again after.
And quasi-experimental.
That just means it's not a true experiment because they couldn't randomly assign kids to different groups, which is super common in schools. You usually can't just randomly pick who gets a program and who doesn't.
Right. Makes sense practically. So they tested them before and after. What kind of test?
It was a 31-item multiple-choice achievement test. It covered all the key areas: food groups, healthy habits, reading labels, and that sustainable synthetic consumption piece.
Trying to measure knowledge and understanding.
Exactly. Knowledge, comprehension, even some application skills. And they made sure the test was solid, reliable, and valid. They reported KR20 scores, which are statistical measures of reliability.
What were the scores? Do they mean anything to us?
They were 0.79 for the pre-test and 0.84 for the post-test. Basically, those are pretty good numbers, suggesting the test consistently measured what it was supposed to measure.
Okay, good. And how long did this whole program actually run for?
It was fairly concise, actually, just 12 class hours in total, spread over 3 weeks.
12 hours. That's not very long.
No, it broke down like this: 1 hour for the initial pre-test, then 10 hours for the actual food literacy program activities, and then 1 final hour for the post-test.
10 hours of instruction.
Yeah.
Okay. And the results, did the scores go up?
They did, significantly. The average score on the post-test was 19.54 out of 31.
And the pre-test average?
Was 17.31, so a definite jump.
And was that jump just random chance, or was it statistically meaningful?
It was statistically significant. The p-value was less than 0.05, which is the standard cutoff in research. It means there's a very low probability the improvement happened just by chance. The program likely caused the increase.
Okay, so it worked, statistically speaking. But here's something interesting you pointed out from the study.
Ah, the practical effect.
Yeah. They mentioned a small practical effect using something called Cohen's d. It was 0.38. What does that mean in plain English?
Right. So statistical significance tells you if there was an effect. Practical significance, measured by Cohen's d here, tells you how big that effect was in real-world terms.
And 0.38 is small.
Cohen himself categorized effect sizes, and 0.2 is typically considered small, 0.5 medium, and 0.8 large. So 0.38 is definitely in the small range, maybe pushing towards medium, but still small.
So the program made a positive difference. We can be confident about that, but maybe not a huge difference in practical terms.
Exactly. It indicates a promising start, a solid foundation, but definitely suggests there's room to make the impact stronger in future versions.
It's a positive step for sure, but that small practical effect does make you think. If you were advising them, what's one quick thing you might suggest to boost that impact? Maybe make the program longer.
That's a great question. Extending the duration is definitely one possibility the researchers themselves suggested.
Makes sense. More time, more learning.
Or perhaps intensifying the content. But given that high student motivation you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
I wonder about more hands-on, maybe project-based stuff, like maybe the kids design a healthy, sustainable meal plan for their family, or do a mini project on local food sources.
Oh, I like that. Taking it beyond the classroom, maybe even involving parents or the school cafeteria somehow.
Exactly. Making it more applied, more embedded in their lives could really amplify that practical effect. Active application seems key.
I agree. So, taking all this into account, the positive results, the small effect size, what does this study ultimately mean? What's the big takeaway?
Well, the study's main conclusion is pretty clear. This specific food literacy program was effective. It successfully instilled food literacy behaviors in these primary school students.
And not just general healthy eating, but specifically including those sustainable development goals, right?
Yes, that was a key part. It covered both personal health and that broader ethical, sustainable perspective.
And does this fit with what other research shows? Are nutrition programs generally effective?
It aligns really well, actually. There's a lot of research showing that similar nutrition education programs tend to have positive effects. And across different age groups, too: preschool, kids, adolescents, even adults.
Improving things like what specifically?
All sorts of things. Nutritional knowledge, obviously, but also self-efficacy, like believing you can make healthy choices, food management skills, label reading, even actual dietary intake.
So this study adds another piece of evidence to that pile.
It does. And importantly, it also gives a thumbs up to that Morrison, Ross, and Kemp instructional design model. It suggests it's a really suitable and effective framework for teaching this kind of complex topic.
Complex because it's not just facts, but attitudes and behaviors too.
Exactly. It involves cognitive goals, knowing things, but also affective goals, feeling certain ways, valuing certain principles related to food. The model seems well suited for that fix. That's a useful finding for anyone designing curricula.
It definitely offers a validated roadmap.
Oh.
Okay, so if we connect this back to the bigger picture, what are the main recommendations coming out of this study? Where should we go from here?
Well, first, a note of caution. It was a relatively small sample size, just 26 kids in one school, so we need to be careful about generalizing the findings too broadly.
Standard research practice. Makes sense.
But that said, the study strongly suggests that similar programs could be really beneficial elsewhere. The key is tailoring them to local conditions, socioeconomic needs. Food is very cultural, after all.
Right. You can't just drop the exact same program into a totally different context.
Exactly. A major recommendation they make is actually integrating programs like this into the formal education system, maybe as elective courses that schools can offer.
Making it part of the standard menu of options for kids.
Precisely. And then thinking about how to boost that practical effect we discussed.
Yeah, how to get more bang for the buck.
They suggest several things for future research or program development: potentially longer interventions, maybe more intensified content, using different ways to measure the outcomes beyond just a multiple choice test.
Like observing actual behavior. Or maybe portfolio assessments.
Could be. Also involving larger groups of students, and ideally using more controlled research designs, like having a comparison group to really isolate the program's impact.
All aimed at strengthening the evidence and maximizing that practical power.
Exactly. Refining and scaling up what seems to be working, building on this promising start.
This whole discussion, it really raises a crucial question for all of us, doesn't it?
What's that?
Considering these clear benefits of teaching food literacy early on, how much it impacts not just personal health, but also the health of our planet. How do we collectively push for this?
You mean, how do we advocate for and actually implement programs like this on a much larger scale?
Yeah. How do we make sure that every child gets the chance to become a truly food literate citizen? Someone equipped to make informed choices that benefit themselves and the world around them.
It feels fundamental, doesn't it? Like a basic building block for a healthier, more sustainable future for everyone.
It really does. A lot to think about there.